Ve'eira Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov b'kel shakai. Shmi Hashem lo nedati lehem. So the Torah says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed himself to the Ovis through a name called Kel Shaka. It's one of the ways of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu can express his power, his energy in the world. Shmi Hashem, the deeper name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the deeper knowledge of who he's really interacting with, Lo Yadati Lehem, I didn't show them. But if we look in the Psukim, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did show himself with the Shem Havaya. And the Shem speak about this. How can HaKadosh Baruch Hu say, I didn't show them my name, when it says that he showed himself to Avram, to Yitzchak, to Yaakov, he showed himself with the name Havaya. And so, there was obviously a difference in perception of how they understood reality. The Ovis saw reality very differently than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is something that's called the Das. And in the human being, the Das is the consciousness, the conscious mind. The one that's aware of itself, that's called the Das. When a human being, let's say, is sleeping, what's running him is called the Keter, something that's outside of him, something that's called the Or Makif, a light that surrounds him. It's things that are true inside of him, but he doesn't understand them. He's not aware of them, he's not conscious. And that runs the person. So for example, when a person is not breathing, his body is still performing the act of breathing. The breathing is still happening, but the conscious mind is not doing it. So the Das is the conscious mind, is where we take over from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we get it, we're going to do stuff now based on the information we've received. That's the Das, that's the consciousness. And this is the area where Adam Arisha and Chava made a mistake about understanding this Das, understanding how do you use this tool that you have. You have the tool to come into reality and do things and make things happen and create. So how do you use that tool appropriately so you don't cause damage? And that Das has been going wrong already for 6,000 years. Not only we don't know how to use our tools right, but even 6,000 years ago when someone still knew a little bit what he's really dealing with, of what he got wrong, he still didn't manage to get it right. So there's something very deeply ingrained in our consciousness, very deeply ingrained at the very building blocks of how we manifest ourselves, how we think, how we know ourselves. And within that fabric, there's already ingrained some type of a mistake. And that's called the Eitz Adas Tov V'Ra. There's Tov and there's Ra, there's good and there's bad. And by Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu is born, it says, V'teira oisa ki tov hu. She saw he was good, meaning that he came specifically from the side of the good Das, meaning he can get involved in life, and the things that he's going to do are going to be in accordance with the ultimate good that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. They're not going to be his imagined good. The imagined good is from the Eitz Adas Tov V'Ra. But he's going to know how to change things and make things better. And this was a deeper knowledge than the others had. Avram Avinu, he wanted to be the one that's going to create a change. He's going to create something different in the world. And Avram Avinu did that by creating a family, to make sure that somebody follows in his path, that somebody understands that there's a necessity for human beings to have specific type of information so that they don't get lost into the wrong information that's not suitable for the nervous system, that causes them distress, that doesn't allow them to find peace with who they are. So Avram Avinu was Kulei Chesed, and that was his whole desire, but he didn't have a vision of how do you go about actually making that happen. Okay, it's a beautiful dream. People should be different. People should be sensitive. People should be in control of their emotions. But that's a dream. What do we do now? What do we do here? And for that, Avram Avinu didn't have an Eitzah. He himself was kind. He himself was bringing in strangers, feeding them, telling them about God. But it fizzled out. It didn't have anything to make it real. So then came Yitzchak. Yitzchak said, this message is so important, we have to find a way to conserve it. We have to be serious about this. But he also didn't have a vision of how do you ultimately make people do this? How does it look? What type of law can you present to humanity that's going to allow them to interact with life in the most natural manner, in a manner that nobody gets hurt. And so Yaakov Avinu figured out a way where through the thought pattern of Yaakov Avinu is the Midas HaTiferes, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind when He created man to be proud of man. By following that logic, we can find a way that's not too kind and it's not too stringent. It's open, it's adventurous, but it doesn't take unnecessary risk. So this is through recognizing how HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed the world. This is one of the principles that He used to design the world, is Tiferes, that He wants to be proud of His creation. Therefore, we can use that to reverse engineer ourselves and figure out what would be the appropriate way for somebody to be proud of us. What would make somebody proud? If somebody created us, if somebody created something like us, what type of behavior would make him proud? And so the midah of Yaakov is what created Klal Yisrael. But Moshe Rabbeinu was the pnimius of Yaakov, meaning, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to be proud, but what are the details behind it? How does it really work? What is he going to be proud of? And that's the Torah. The Torah is here to tell us details about how we really function, about who we really are. And the Torah, the way to get to know it, is to reconcile you and it. Because they're both coming from the same Creator, and they both have the same message. One of them is hidden, and that's you. And the other one is what you can look at. You can see the words, and that's the Torah. But on the other hand, the Torah is hidden, because the Torah is very difficult to understand. But you, if you pay close attention, you can reveal your own nature to yourself, and then you can find that understanding in the Torah. Then you can see what the Torah is trying to protect. Because as long as you don't understand the purpose of life, the Torah cannot make sense by its very definition. The Torah is here to tell you that everything that we think is wrong and something else is important. So as long as we haven't realized that what we think is wrong, we can't understand the Torah. The Torah can't make sense to us. So only when we recognize that somebody at some point in the past knew more than us about ourselves, because we're all the same beings. If he knew more about himself, it means he knew more about us. So if we recognize that, then we go to him to find out what it means to be us. And that's the message. That's the message that survived for 3,500 years. And so when HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed himself to the Avos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed that he is the one that runs life. What's the proof? That you can see a vision where life can be perfect. And if life can be perfect, it means it has a purpose. It means it has a creator. The call for people to think that life is random is because they see the chaos in what plays out and what people do. And they blame the chaos of what people create on the creator. But the creator didn't create chaos. The creator created order. And the human minds, by misunderstanding that order, they create the chaos. And so when people saw through the chaos and they saw what could be, they believed, they understood. But that's not Ishmi Hashem, that's not the recognition of all the different details that are required to make that vision happen, to make that vision a reality. And that was Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why he's called the leader of all the Nevi'im, because his Nevi'ah was the doorway, his Nevi'ah set the tone for all the rest of the Torah. Everything that anybody wrote after only had authority because it was based on Torah's Moshe. It was based on the original message where Klal Yisrael had a revelation of 600,000 people recognizing the same truth at the same time. And so Moshe Rabbeinu saw something and he showed something that nobody shown before. And even though he couldn't deliver the message all the way, and human nature wasn't yet ready to be that perfect being that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, that message continues to every generation. It demands of them to take a look at their own lives and try to recognize what are the principles that make their life the way that they are, so that they can improve whatever the Avos couldn't accomplish, whatever Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't accomplish, whatever the Nevi'im couldn't accomplish. we now, after all the suffering that humanity went through, we can accomplish. We are so worn out already, our nefashos are so tired, that we can do things that previous generations, it would have been impossible for them to do. We can recognize realities that are very distant from the way we're used to thinking, because we know that the way we're used to thinking is not pleasant, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't really work. Something is missing, something very real is missing from it. And so the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to every person all the time. But there were people who knew how to look at it and see it. And then most of us, we just look at it, but we can't see it. We can't see through all the chaos, all the events, all the desires, all the dreams and hallucinations, to see what is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually created, because He already created the way that He created, and that's the message. The message is what He did. The revelation is simply to see that what He did is perfect, that it's supposed to be this way. That when humanity will recognize how to go about life, it will work. And the damage that we have is in the history. Our history is traumatic, our history is painful, our history is angry. And so as long as we carry our history with us, we're carrying pain, we're carrying suffering, we're carrying anger. And then we resist life. Then life can't happen to us the appropriate way. And this is the same thing that happened in this parsha, where we see that Klal Yisrael v'lishamu el Moshe mikot tzirich ma'avodah kosher, that they were working so hard, they couldn't even listen to themselves think. They couldn't even understand that maybe life can be something else. They were born into something that was going for hundreds of years, and they couldn't imagine another reality. Not only couldn't they imagine another reality while they were in Egypt, even when they left Egypt, they already saw that they could get out of all that, and they were still requesting, maybe we should run back to Mitzrayim, maybe we should run back to Mitzrayim, because their mind was so stuck repeating the patterns of the past. And this is what caused that we couldn't go into Eretz Yisrael on the first chance. We couldn't avoid the Egel so that we could have a Gula Shlema from Har Sinai. And so then we fell again, and the slavery has been following us for thousands of years. We've been enslaved by ideas that we don't fully understand, and those ideas and those feelings and those thoughts that we created brought upon us all kinds of suffering, created all kinds of suffering in our lives. And this is the message of Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is all over the Torah, is that it's up to each individual, it's up to each moment to do whatever it has in its power to make sure that we can come free from the past, that we can come free from the thoughts and ideas that are not helpful to humanity, that are not kind. And so then we can transform ourselves, then we can become something better. And that brings us closer to seeing the true revelation, to seeing life from the lens of the one that created it, where we all be zoicha. Because Baruch Hu should show us His vision. B'shuv Hashem, B'shuv Asiyan. B'mehera b'yameinu.